a really nice maiden special weight there to start us off. We'll move on to the second race, an open $6,250,000 claiming event on the main track at the one-turn mile. And I tried to shop for a price in here. Unfortunately, it was a scratch. So the 2 Air Squadron is going to be my top selection. You look at this race, though, and it's a little bit discouraging that they claimed him for $10,000 last time out. Now they drop him down to the $6,250 condition. So it's not really a vote of confidence, but he has been facing open company, turf to dirt. And I do think he has at least a little bit of natural speed at this distance.
Yeah, I did not use him on my ticket there. I went right with the number 9, who you have in second. It's Bluegrass Jam. A popular sort has been claimed in 6 of his last 8 races in there. Turning back to a mile today, 28 races at a mile, 5 wins, a second and 5/3 after making what looked like a winning move to me before weakening to finish 4th. Again, similar going a mile in the 16th. It's an old war horse, and he gets the tepid nod in his 63rd start.
I used him in the mix as well for all those reasons. The 13 Poco Man is an interesting one too. Had to throw this horse in. Now, you look at his past performances and kind of his Beyer speed figures, and last time out it was on a sloppy sealed track, and he won very impressively against open company. Now even getting a slight class relief, he very well could go back to back, but will his form change now getting to a fast track?
I have him on the ticket for all the reasons you mentioned. I think he can run well in this spot. As I was saying, when I showed you my early pick 5 ticket, I thought this was a wide open affair. I also used the number 4 in here. Stone Warner's going to try and make it too. We're talking about a horse that's going to repeat. After dueling throughout and edging clear to defeat, similar going a 2-turn mile at Gulfstream Park West. George Handy, 92 years young, the trainer. Orlando Boca Chica going for 2 in a row. This horse, I chase him all the time, either here, Gulfstream Park West. When I don't pick him, he wins. When I pick him, he doesn't win. So I picked him in 3rd today, and that means he's going to win probably.
And did you use him on your pick 5 ticket?
I did use him on my pick 5 ticket.
Okay, good. So you have all the bases covered there. We'll move on to the next event on the card, the race 3, the grade 3 rampant stakes going out to the main track at the one-turn mile. And well, it looks like the 1 Cali Star is going to be the filly to beat. She seems to be very formful here coming into the race for trainer Marty Wilson, but he's got a lot of runners in this race and really throughout the card.
Yeah, you know, Cali Star is not the morning line favorite. The morning line favorite is another Marty Wilson horse, and that's Best Behavior. I used on the ticket, but hasn't been running in a while, so that's why I went to Cali Star in here. But the horse that I have in second here, Danessa Deluxe, before we get into Cali Star, just want to go back and show you a stat on this horse, on this trainer here in this particular race. George Navarro, I found this interesting, 8 for 35, 23% with the switch from Gulfstream Park West to Gulfstream Park. So there's a stat right out there. Wins 23% of the time. So I thought I'd throw that out. But as you mentioned, Cali Star, to me on paper, looks like the one we're going to have to worry about in here, a beat.
Well, and also, you look at her last race there against the Allowance Optional Claiming Company at Gulfstream Park West, and she was on the lead, and she dueled early, and she just looked like much the best. She drew clear from the rest of the field by 5 lengths. Today, she draws the rail, and there's other speed in here. I think there's faster fillies to her outside, including Best Behavior, even Legal Laura, who has been capable of showing speed, and even Moment of Delight from that outside post. You would imagine they might get aggressive from out there. So the strategy here, I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, but is to go to the lead. They'll probably have to take back, or else she'll be hounded from the outside on the rail.
Yeah, you know, and that is always a problem here because you're breaking from that inside, going this 1-turn mile, and if you just happen to get swallowed up early, it's hard to, then you have to negotiate around horses. The reason I wanted to, I picked Danessa Deluxe in second here, who was 3rd in the Gulfstream Park, Grade 2 Gulfstream Park Oaks here last March. I think his horse is going to offer more this afternoon. He made that middle move last time out to finish second behind Cali Star. We showed you the stat on George Navarro, and I thought the horse ran pretty good off a layoff last time out. That's the number 6, Danessa Deluxe. I think this one, if someone's going to catch Cali Star, in my estimation, it might be number 6, Danessa Deluxe.
And she was looked like a really good one kind of earlier in her 3-year-old season, and as we get to the late of her 3-year-old season going into her 4-year-old season, we could see even a progression. I'm going to give her one more. I didn't use her in the top 3 selection just because I'm going to scope it out. I want to see how she runs out of that last race here. But another horse is the 7, Best Behavior. I think she's going to be forwardly placed here too. And again, she's very, very quick. I believe she probably might even be the fastest, but she could contend with the 5, Legal Laura. Legal Laura, I think, is interesting because in the past couple of starts here, they've actually she's shown kind of a rating type of strategy, take off the pace and then have a tendency to close. Now stretching out to the one-turn mile, I don't know if she's going to be capable of doing that because she is very speedy. She might get caught up in the mix, especially stretching out to the one-turn mile. But again, I do think she has the class in order to run a good race today. And red hot, or very, very good connections there. Kathleen O'Connell and Paco Lopez. We'll go on to the fourth race, a maiden $7,500 event. Initially carded for the turf, but will run on the main track at 1 mile. And this race is kind of a head scratcher too. I'm interested to see perhaps who you use in your early pick 5 because there's multiple ways to go. Essentially, I just landed on the same horse as the 10 Social Stranger I'm going to stick with as the top selection. An interesting statistic here for the barn. Trainer Todd Pletcher at Gulfstream alone, when races come off the turf, he's 4 for 11, so 36%. This is over just the past couple of years. So you look at the breeding too, he's by include out of an APND mare. Quite honestly, I think he could definitely do well on the dirt.
Yeah, he could do well in the dirt. His last race was sort of highlighted when he finished fourth, was behind a Next Out Stakes winner, Pulpit Stakes winner called Swagger Jagger. That was in a mile in the 16th. But going to the main track, I don't see a problem. Todd Pletcher, the barn has been on fire. But I did keep, we have our exacta flip-flop. I went with the 9 Axtellers debuting locally after coming within a scant nose of Exon and mating ranks on the Aqueduct turf last time out. Mark Cassie, Julian Leperoux in the saddle. Horse has never been on a traditional dirt surface. It's either been on the turf or the synthetic, but I just think the breeding, they're keeping this horse in here, and I love the barn, so I'm keeping it on top of my ticket. Social Stranger, for all the reasons you mentioned.
And I was debating whether or not to change my selections and go with the 9 Axtell on top because I like his early speed, and you even look at his workouts on the main track at Palm Meadows too, and they're very quick, so it looks like he's kind of acclimated to South Florida from obviously up north there in the past couple of months, shipping down here. And he could have the advantage of the speed if he can transition it. So I really do like the 9 in here. I almost flip-flopped my exacta. And the one Baby's Bear Soup is an interesting one, was third last time out. And I went back and watched the replay at Keeneland, and it almost looked like he wasn't taking a liking to the track. His gait was kind of all over the place. It almost looked like he kept switching leads. The winner, Donegal Moon, was an uncontested gate-to-wire winner, so we could very well see this horse improve on a new surface and kind of a different field here, a different setup. I think there's going to be more pace that he has to deal with. However, he does have to work out a trip from that rail post.
And you're getting Javier Castellano handling that inside post this afternoon. The horse, just quickly, he's the number 4, I'm no secret. Third behind a Next Out Stakes winner, little Nick V in the juvenile turf. At this distance on the turf back on October 10th. Drops, stretches out after tracking the pace, weakening. I just thought this horse, Mike Maker, Luis Saez, can handle the move to the main track.
All right, race 5 on the card, a 6,250 conditional claimer, 6 furlongs on the main track. And I thought this was kind of a tricky race too. The 5 Decimizar is going to be my top selection. Again, last time out, stepped up in class, off a bit of a freshening there to the starter $12,500 company, and now takes the drop back down to, I think, a reasonable level. Just recently got the non-winners a 2 lifetime condition for the $12,500 level. So again, I think getting a slight class relief from her last race, I go to her. I can't fault you for going to the 6 twist and turn though. I used her in the exacta.
Yeah, she's returning to the main track. 6 previous races, 1 win, 3 seconds in the third. Shipping from Monmouth Park to Gulfstream Park West and defeating $8,000 2 lifetime claimers. Going 5 furlongs on the turf. George Navarro, good with all angles with the turf to dirt angle, over 26%. He's got apprentice Gerardo Corrales going for 2 in a row, so the horse is getting a little bit of a weight break. Thought it was the logical one in there. The horse that we both have on our ticket is the number 3 Nocturnal Q, and I like this horse a little bit in here today. It's a pretty square price.
I really like him in here too, or her, excuse me. I really like her in here. Now, last time out, she did repeat on an off track. Today, she gets back to a fast track. And again, you see horses in here who are dropping in class from the starter $12,500 level, or maybe even upper claiming levels here. And she's just been very consistent at the 6250 level. She got her non-winners a 2 lifetime condition for that. 2 starts back. She's a 3-year-old filly, and that obviously makes her eligible here as she has multiple wins on this year. So she's a filly that's in form, and we very well could see her just continue her good form despite some of these class droppers.
Yeah, she seems to be the now horse. Now, number 12, Aftermarket Spoiler. If you spent some time with us yesterday here or in simulcast world, you knew how good this barn did yesterday. I'm talking about the Aftermarket Spoiler. Drop it to the 62.50 level on the main track for red-hot trainer Dane Kubitsky after facing $25,000 claimers going 5.5 furlongs on the Laurel turf. So I'm going to defer to you. The jockey tandem teamed up for 2 wins yesterday, Dane Kubitsky and Tyler Gaffney. And Tyler rode great in both those races.
And the connections have been doing very, very well. And again, some of them have been big class droppers, and then others have just really held form at the levels that they've been competing against in the past. Now, this is not the case. She's going to be a big class dropper from the $25,000 level. They claimed this horse off of Mike Stidham at Laurel, and she just wasn't able to hold form. The interesting thing is the big drop in class and a different surface, so they're changing everything up here, and she very well could win it on class purposes alone. But with that said, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. Once again, we have a couple of stakes races in the mix and some really nice races in the sequence too, right after this. Welcome back to Gulfstream Park in Gulfstream today, and we're taking a look at the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. We do have a carryover this afternoon of $12,600 in the sequence, and it does kick it off in race 6. Again, an always very, very popular wager here at Gulfstream.
And we got a bunch of stakes races in the sequence, so it's going to be a lot of fun this afternoon. You mentioned the carryover. This 6th race where we start, let's go off the turf.
As you said, off the turf, initially carded at 7.5 furlongs on the turf, but on the main track here at 7 furlongs. Have a few scratches. I initially liked Wasting Away. I really liked this horse today, and unfortunately we're going to have to wait until another day. This race, I go to the outside post positions here, and you know, in terms of the pick 6, I had to spread with a couple different horses because sometimes you get these horses first time on a different track, they pop up and they kick you out of the first leg. 1, 2, 15, and the 16 I'll be using in the first leg of the sequence for this maiden $35,000 event. As we get farther along, race 7, using 3 horses, the 7, 9, and the 13. My single is in race 8. I do really like the 9 Cat Tree. Speaking about Dane Kubitsky in there, I was actually going to use his other runner in there too, but that horse has scratched, so singling on that horse. As we get into the latter half of the sequence, I really like Valid today in race 10, but kind of covering my bases in that race as well. And in today's finale, using the 1 Aztec Brave and the 5 Tower of Texas in the El Prado. So again, a really nice sequence, but let's start talking about it here, Ron. Race 6, who'd you land on?
I went with the number 15 in here, and that is Tessie, who entered for the main track. Is dropping to the $35,000 level today after finishing a distant 3rd and 2nd, respectively, in a pair of off-track performances on the New York circuit. I think the drop, I think the fast surface today should help this Dom Chatino-Louis Saez collaboration. Just thought it was a logical horse to be on the ticket. If I was putting a Rainbow Six ticket together, this race, I'd be very, very interested in taking all.
Yeah, I know. It's if you have the funds to do so, right?
Right, exactly.
The 15 Tessio I used in here as well. She gets second-time Lasix, and she cuts back in distance. And as you kind of said, she gets back to a fast track, which I think she will benefit from. But this is a big drop in class, in my opinion, from some of those maiden special weight levels at Aqueduct and Belmont, even Saratoga. You see horses who've been running locally, pretty much at lower level maiden claiming levels. So again, I think she might have the advantage there. Initially entered for main track only. The 16 Postscript is an interesting one. This is another one who's taken a big drop in class, made in 50,000 off a freshening last time out. She was unhurried late, but then it looked like she had decent energy coming down the stretch. She picked up a couple of pieces late. This will be second time Lasix as well, and she gets the added distance of the 7 furlongs. I think what it boils down to is I hope she can break a little bit sharper today, and hopefully added distance will help her.
Yeah, I went totally the outside in this race. As you see, my selections 15, 13, and 16. Brianna's Bucket stepping up. Competition, she dueled throughout. She was beating the nose at 7.5 furlongs on the turf. Eddie Broom, Paco Lopez handling that outside post. I think this horse has got to go.
Okay, the one that lived by the river. This is another one I'll be using. But again, you look at Maiden Special Weight Company at Remington in the past 2 starts. I kind of went back and dug into what she was really facing in those Maiden Special Weights, and a lot of the horses or fillies that she ran against haven't really kept form other than staying at the local circuit. So again, that might be kind of a tricky one that you might want to watch out for there as well. We'll go on to race 7, another very nice maiden special weight. This race does stay on the turf at 7.5 furlongs, and it also does start the late pick 5.
Yeah, late pick 5. Let's quickly show you my ticket in here. And I went to 3 deep in here with the 1, 7, and the number 13. And you see as we go down. And the races towards the end of the card, we have the same horses in race 11. More formful than me. So I'm hoping I can get through this first leg with 3 selections. And then maybe, I'm thinking and I'm hoping that the form's going to hold today. A $54 ticket.
A $54 ticket there. Indeed, race 7 we'll talk about here. And I see you used both of the Todd Pletcher first-time starters, and that's probably the best idea here. But I want to talk about one horse in here, and to start off the conversation, the 9, Sir Dudley Diggs. I'm shopping for price in this race because I do respect the 1 Gimlet, and I do respect the first-time starter, both first-time starters for Todd Pletcher. But this one kind of intrigues me. Sir Dudley Diggs for trainer Mike Maker. They debuted this colt on the turf, then unfortunately was rained off. They still ran on the main track last time out. Now finally, I think, getting back to a more preferred surface. When he did debut, it was at Keeneland going the mile, and that race produced a lot of next out winners. And actually, it produced 4 next out winners in the field of 12. We saw the winner go on to win a first level allowance at Churchill, and we even saw the 3rd place finisher go on to win a maiden special weight at Del Mar, barring an 81 Beyer speed figure. So I think that was a very strong race, and he at least has the experience in the field.
Yeah, you're going to get a good price on anything in here besides those 2 Todd Pletcher first-time starters. They're going to be betting them a lot. So that is the number 9 horse. But I think we want to go back and spotlight a horse in here, and that's War Order.
Yeah, this was a very interesting race. So we'll go back to the 18th of October here at Belmont, maiden special weight. This horse was bet down to your favorite for trainer Graham Motion. Jose Lezcano was aboard this day, and he broke very well coming out of the gate. And then something really odd starts to happen as I believe Giant Run was the pace setter in there. They were going very fast opening quarter fractions. Giant Run went to the front end, and all of a sudden the 10 War Order just, I don't know if something was happening here or what, but the rider almost takes him back off the pace, lets the speed go ahead, and completely loses his position in that particular event. He's very keen right here. You can see him kind of the first horse in the second wave of horses, and from then on it kind of just falls apart from there. He chases those strong early fractions, and then he just kind of goes backwards from there. So I thought it was interesting that they tried to hold this horse so much from doing what he naturally wanted to do, which was to go to the lead.
Yeah, right.
And again, he's continuing on there. So I don't think it was it was kind of a tricky race. You even go back to his performances at Saratoga where he showed speed. Highland Sky he ran against. That's obviously a talented 2-year-old as well. So now with that outside post position, I don't know what the strategy is going to do. Maybe they didn't want to go to the lead and duel early. Maybe they were aggressive taking this horse back. So perhaps they might just get him to settle a little bit more today.
Well, let's talk about one of those Todd Pletcher first-time starters. How about Kismet's Healed? This is a $900,000 son of Tappet. As we mentioned, debuting for Todd with a string of really solid 4 and 5 workouts showing, furlong workouts showing. Going to today, going to yesterday, Todd Pletcher was 5 for 5 with his 2-year-old runners here. Then I think lost one yesterday, so he's 5 for 6.
At the maiden claiming level.
At the maiden claiming level, yeah. Just put a stat at how good he's been doing at this track with his 2-year-old. So Kismet's Healed, a $900,000 son of Tappet. I just think he's going to run well in the spot.
Yeah, you look at the breeding there, bred to be a good one. Tappet out of a Gone West mare. This colt is actually kin to Coast Girl. She won in debut as a 3-year-old. A couple of the other horses that he's actually kin to run in their 3-year-olds, won in their 3-year-old season. So I'm interested to see perhaps how this horse is developing, if he can fire in debut, or perhaps maybe a little bit longer down the road. On the opposite side of the spectrum, we have the one Gimlet, who is by Lemon Drop Kid, by Aurelia. Again, you look at some of the breeding is kin to Aurelia's Belle. She went at first asking at 2. She was very nice filly as well. So some of the, unfortunately, she draws the rail post position. That's the only reason why I did kind of throw her out of my pick 6 ticket.
Yeah, and that's why I backed off her and put her in the 3rd spot there. And I just think that maybe War Order is the right horse in here. But I'm going to go back and look at the number 9 because that's the great place to get a price, you know, in that leg of first leg of the late pick 5.
And not to mention, War Order does get Lasix for the first time, so that's a late addition there. The 13 War Order, first time Lasix today as well. We'll move on to the 8th race, an allowance optional claiming event, 6 furlongs onto the main track, and scratch the 10 while ye may. I land on the 9 Cat Tree in here primarily because I think he's the fastest early horse in the race. We do have a couple of horses that could perhaps, pressure him early. You see the 8 Prospecticus in here for Todd Pletcher. He dueled early and went on to win at first asking. He's by Uncle Mo, which his progeny has just been so precocious lately. But ultimately, I think the 9 Cat Tree is going to be the horse to catch and the horse to beat.
Well, number 11, Final Encore is where it started mine. I want to go back and show you a stat about this here of Ralph Nixon. I just found it very interesting. On Final Encore, you see it right there, 10 for 47, 21% with his 2-year-olds making this 2nd start, and that's what this horse is distance. Now, let me tell you about that last race. This one will make his first start versus winner. He dueled early, proved best late when he defeated 5 next out winners in what is turning out to be a monster key race. Ralph Nix, we mentioned the stats up there. So I went with the old key race angle. Had to have this one on the ticket. We got our exacta flip-flop. I'm using both on my ticket.
Not to mention, it's very impressive when you see a horse in a field of 13, so racing against 12 others, drawn from kind of an inside post position, post 3, work out a trip, and go on to win by a half length. Again, he's coming in fresh. And the only concern there was kind of with that outside post, will he be left chasing the early pace setters there, or was he going to kind of take back and be able to relax a little bit? But 9-11 for me as well. The 5 I'll throw in at a price, and you round it out with the 8. Red Hot Connection.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll go on to stakes action, race 9, the South Beach, and we go out to the turf course at 7.5 furlongs. 108 feet is the new rail setting here. And the 10 Lori Store, I'm going to try to take a shot with. I'm interested to see who you landed on here. The 6 Hope Cross is probably going to be your favorite as we go postward for Chad Brown and Joe Bravo.
Yeah, I did land on Hope's Cross in here, but to have Lori Store on my ticket, I like the fact that you got it right on top. And I'm going to go with Hope Cross, turning back to 7.5 furlongs. Finished the game 2nd in the mile into 16, grade 3, My Charmer at Gulfstream Park West. Chad Brown, Joe Bravo, handling the usually fruitful 3rd start back from a layoff. It's the daughter of Cape Cross, but Lori Store was in that race.
Yeah, you look at both of them, and I thought that Hope Cross even benefited a little bit more from kind of the setup. They went pretty decent fractions early, and then she kind of just closed from off the pace, whereas Lori Store was reserved. She only got a late run at the stretch, and finally she came with a late closing rally. We'll actually go back and take a look at that replay here, so you can probably take a look at both horses in the race, the 6 Hope Cross, but I wanted to look at the 10 Lori Store, this really pretty gray filly towards the back of the pack, and she had to make up a tremendous amount of ground. She even lost a little bit of ground coming around that final turn, and look at her energy coming down the stretch. I thought visually she made up more ground, and again, visually I was more impressed by her performance than Hope Cross, who she faces once again here today. You can just see her finishing very well, and the gallop out was very, very strong. And on top of that, you get Julian Leparoux, a class rider on the turf.
Class rider, and that's the way he loves to ride, the way this horse ran last time out. He likes to ride very patient early and come running.
Specialty.
It's his specialty. That's a good way of saying it. I close it out with the 1 horse in here, Dauphine Russo, stretching out today, 7.5 furlongs. The only problem is David Jacobson claimed this horse last time out, but 0 for 8 at the distance. That was my concern.
Looking at the 3 Unbridled Courage, this will be your 2nd start off the freshening here. This 3-year-old filly for trainer Peter Walder gets the horse for the first time. The only negative stat that I could find, first-time trainer switch on the turf specifically. It's kind of a negative stat, only 2 for 17, 12% in negative ROI, but the blinkers do come off, and perhaps she could settle going 2 turns on the turf at the 7.5 furlong distance. We'll go on to the 10th race on the card in the Harlan's Holiday, mile and a 16th on the main track. And we have a very nice field here. The 2 Valid at 5-2 as your morning line favorite. We also have the 4 Made from Lucky, 2 very legitimate contenders in this event. We'll go back and take a look at Valid's performance here in the Harlan's Holiday last year, and very impressive. I thought this was one of my favorite, well, going back and kind of revisiting some of the replays that we were showing today, this was one of my favorite ones. What a race this was. Obviously, he's dueling with the very talented Liam's Map. He kind of got to his head, got to his flank there at the top of the, or going into the stretch there, and Liam's Map just fighting really, really tenaciously to the finish. I even thought in the Harlan's Holiday last year, Liam's Map put in the dirty work, dueling pretty much the entire way around there. Valid kind of met his match going into the turn. They dueled to the finish. Obviously, we've seen what kind of horse Liam's Map has turned out to be.
Yeah, and I remember watching this race, and everybody in here was just so screaming and yelling. It was that much of a fun race. You know, they were just ding-donging it down the stretch, and it was very exciting. Valid on top of my ticket, like I believe you do too.
And looking at Valid in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, he's exiting a very, very strong race there. Liam's Map, what kind of a performance Liam's Map put in that race. You know, taking back from off the speed, we always thought that this horse needed the lead, but he very well didn't need it. Whereas Valid, he had a draw from that outside post position. This is a horse who's used to being close to the lead, and he was multiple lengths last because of that outside post, and faster horses to his inside. So I thought he was kind of taken off guard. Today, I'm not saying this is a much easier field, but I think the structure of the race maybe benefits him a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I immediately, after I handicapped, this one's got to be on top. I used the 4 Made from Lucky in second. We got to know him very well. We watched him school out here the last couple of days. So he's a good horse. He's from the Todd Fletcher Bond, John Velasquez. Atop the Grade 2 win, he won the Peter Pan.
And looking, I used him in actually the pick 6. I used Made from Lucky in the pick 6, but I didn't use him in my top 3 selections. I'm more interested in the 1, Mr. Jordan. This is an interesting horse in my opinion. Last time out faced American Pharaoh in the Grade 1 Haskell at a mile and an 1/8. Now they've given him some time off after that performance. What can you do when you're chasing? You know, this is a horse who's very fast in his own right, and you have to compete against American Pharaoh, and you're chasing very quick early fractions. Now at the mile and a 16th, he draws the rail, and he very well could have the speed advantage to the inside. Very nice handicapping race, though, in the Harlan's Holiday. We'll move on to the 11th and final race on the card, the El Prado Stakes, 7.5 furlongs on the turf. A rail set at 108 feet, and this is obviously we have the scratch of the 11 War correspondent in here, and you have to go back to the drawing board and kind of re-handicap the race. I initially landed on the 1 Aztec Brave, and I stuck to him today.
I scratched into Aztec Brave, Grade 3 stakes place. French-bred son of Paris, turned it back slightly to 7.5 furlongs. I thought he ran really well in the $100,000 Artie Schiller, going a mile on the yielding course at Aqueduct. He's the inside speed. Proved tough to catch.
I'm only using 2 horses in the pick 6, the 1 Aztec Brave and the 5 Tower of Texas, primarily because I think Aztec Brave will be the fastest from the rail, but if he does get pressure from the 3 Plainview, I think it's going to set up for the 5 Tower of Texas to close from off the pace.
Well, let's hope you're right, because I got those 2 on my late pick 5 ticket.
All right, well, that sounds good. Lots of stakes action this afternoon and some really good races as well. We're going to take a quick break, and Larry Comas will be back with scratches and changes. Once again, thank you for joining us here on Gulfstream today.